Hello, everyone. My name is David Aderonpe. I am the head of products for our government business here at Zoom.
Amazing, amazing. Short and sweet, David. I love it. I love it. Awesome, awesome. So this is actually the first time I've got to meet all of you. So I don't want to mispronounce anyone's names. So please, how about you in the red jacket? Let's start with you, and you can teach me the ways.
Yeah, my name is Ayana Gardner. I've been at Zoom for about 5 months now, and I'm on the contact center specialist team.
Awesome. Thank you, Ayana.
Well, I guess that leaves me. Hello, hello. I am Maja, and I am an internal communications manager here at Zoom. I've been here for about 3 years now.
Awesome. Thank you, Maja. Great. So this is so fantastic. And way to show up with a unified background scheme. Like everyone looks like they're sitting in the same room. I love it. The same Zoom room. Isn't this fun? Okay, so let's get into it. To start off, so we'll do like some round robin. I'll call on you, but also feel free, my friends, if you want to jump in or add stuff, you can do this. This is fireside chat. We're hanging out. So okay, so let's jump in a bit, and I just love to hear from each of you about your own journeys, a little bit about yourselves, and how you maybe got started at Zoom and why you were attracted to Zoom. So Maja, right? Is that how I pronounce your name?
Yes, Maja.
Maja, thank you. Let's start with you.
Ooh, okay. How much time do you have first?
All right, so we're gonna do the whole day now with Zoom, everybody. I'm sorry,
yeah,
everything else is tomorrow.
Yes, that sounds a lot better. Okay, Hunter, so tell me, what information are you looking for one more time?
Oh, sure. Tell me a little bit about you, Maja. Where'd you come from? Why are you attracted to Zoom? And maybe, what, just a little bit about your story so we can get inside your head a little bit.
Yeah, so at Zoom, again, I'm an internal communications manager. And for me, that means that I lead all communications for our HR department here at Zoom, and we call it people experience. I am originally from Richmond, Virginia, and I recently relocated to LA, so I'm a West Coast Cali girl now. But I think what really attracted me to Zoom, and I was fortunate enough that I actually had a recruiter that reached out to me a couple of years ago about an opportunity at Zoom. And I think the biggest thing that attracted me to Zoom, after going through my interview process, speaking to some of the leaders and some of my team, things like that, was the culture. Like I really felt that Zoom was an employee-centric company coming in. And that's what really attracted me. I needed to know that I would have leaders and managers who, and teammates and coworkers who were really about what they were saying, right? So, Zoom was about flexible work. I needed flexible work. Work-life balance is important to me. I wanted to know that, the work that I'm doing here is not just a leader telling me what to do, but more so about me being able to bring my ideas to the table and make a true impact here. I wanted to know that I could do events with our Black ERG and our other ERG allies and things like that, so that, again, my work can make an impact, but I could also create spaces and opportunities that foster sort of a safe space and create opportunities for other people who look like me to thrive. And so I think Zoom walked the walk, they talked the talk, and, it was very, from the beginning, to me, employee-centric. Their culture was all about uplifting, motivating employees and making a space for us. And so that's what really attracted me to Zoom.
Amazing. Thank you. David.
Well, where do I start is the first thing, but I'll try to keep it
Let's start
concise.
at the very beginning. It's a very nice place to start.
A long, long time ago in a far, far away land. I'm actually originally from Africa, so I am Nigerian. I'm actually born and raised there, so it's a little bit 10,000 miles away from home for me. But that's where my journey starts. I moved to the United States, as a freshman in college, so it was kind of fun to be dropped in a whole continent by yourself. And I've gone through multiple years here now, and I have a bachelor's and master's degree in engineering, as well as an MBA in finance. And for me, it was bringing this whole skill set, my background, to a place where I can resonate with the mission. So similar to Maija, I've been here a little over 3.5 years now, and back then, if you imagine, that was the middle of the pandemic. COVID had just hit in March. I think my interview was over the summer at that point. we didn't know if we were ever going to see an open world anymore. And here was Zoom. They reached out, and that mission at that point really was connecting, right? I have family, 4 time zones. We had to collaborate somehow and talk to each other, and Zoom was one of the ways we were able to do that. My 80-year-old parents are still back there. We still have Zoom calls with them, and they're able to use it in those remote locations. So for me, it was really the mission of the company, and then seeing also representation across their ranks. So that was part of the key reasons why, when I was looking back then, I sort of was drawn to Zoom as a company. And I joined right at about when it was a little over 3,000 people. Now we're about two and a half that size, and it's been good to be a part of that journey, to see it grow from what it used to be, the pandemic. Now we're back to the open world and return to office, and to be part of that, where I can enable it not only for my government customers, but also the global population at large.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, David. And Ayana.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring it all the way back to my parents. They were born in Jamaica. And I bring that up because they showed me a lot about, hard work and, having to, impress people in order to, really show that you're worth that career. So when I was born in New York, so I wasn't privileged to be born in Jamaica. But I basically grew up in Las Vegas, and I've been in tech sales for over a decade. Always been a top performer, have sold everything from telecom to cybersecurity, cloud infrastructure. So when I found out about this Zoom contact center, that's the team that I'm on. I was really intrigued because this essentially is going to be a disruptor in the contact center, industry. And I already knew about Zoom and, all the great things that they were doing. And they're really big on innovation. And then I heard nothing but good things about the culture, about the company, about the employees. So that's why I came over. I'm probably the least senior person here, but I've been loving every second. Yeah, Zoom is amazing.
Amazing. I love that. And we're going to definitely get into the company culture aspects. I'm very, very interested in hearing more about that from all of you. Before we jump in, as this summit is called Amplifying Black Excellence, I'm curious, how would y'all define that? Like, what is Black excellence? David, how about you?
Fair enough. So for me, when I think about Black excellence, it's a multi-dimensional concept that I really think we should embrace and acknowledge for what it is, as celebrating, accomplishments and successes of people from the African diaspora, people that look like us, individuals as well as the community of a large. Successes in various arena, from, academic, business, the community, arts, music, sports. As a community, we do have to celebrate our wins. We don't always get as many wins as we would like. And to have this opportunity to really celebrate, lean in, and embrace some of those that have been successful, we can see representation of ourselves, which really does help a lot of us really to dream that we're capable of getting there. We deserve a seat. We see someone that looks like us there. It's a huge thing. And from me, having traveled a little bit, I've seen the celebration and excellence, all, at least the continents I've been to, whether it's in Africa, celebrating the wins there, in the United States, South America, the Caribbean, or even in Asia. It's really important, when you see this excellence, to embrace it, because there's not always a lot of us in the room, especially in some of these technical conversations. So acknowledging one another and wins across the board is huge to keep the next generation motivated, and the rest of us broadly to encourage one another.
Yeah, thank you for that, David. Maja, how do you define Black excellence?
Yeah, David, that was good. Tough act to follow. I think Black excellence to me is relative, right? Like, it is based on each individual Black person's idea for what Black excellence is. And to me, it's really about what makes you proud as an individual, as a Black person, whether that's your master's, whether that's your bachelor's, whether that's where you work, whether that's being a mother, whether it's, you know, working at Zoom, like, you know, whatever that is for you, as far as success, as far as achievement, I think that's what, you know, is an embodiment of Black excellence. And for me, I think as a Black woman in a male and white dominated space, Black excellence for me is about how I've made progress in this space, being able to, you know, create opportunities for more minorities in the tech space, being able to create room at, you know, the table, you know, working with executives and senior leaders and having a voice for not only, you know, Black folks, but other minorities just, you know, at Zoom and again, in the tech world in general, and being able to advocate for Black women in leadership. Like, that's what Black excellence is to me. Sure, I can name off, like I said, the bachelor's and masters and things like that. But I think for me, Black excellence is how I use what I've achieved, what I've succeeded in to impact other people who look like me in a positive way.
I love that. And I also love how you're saying it's a unique experience, right? And it's not one thing for anyone. It's self-defined of what that means. And
Yes.
yeah, I love that. And I love hearing too that for you, it sounds like being of service is a big part of that definition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ayana, how about you? How do you define Black
Yeah,
excellence?
2 great answers, guys. So I think that Black people, we're often associated with resilience, which can be a lot. Sometimes it's a little heavy, it's a lot of hard work, you know, to be resilient every single day. So I think Black excellence is just experiencing joy and just kind of having, you know, lightheartedness about life despite all the inequalities and, you know, the hardships that we sometimes have to go through. Just finding joy in the littlest things, I think, is a really good sign of Black excellence. And then the second thing I would say is helping the collective us of Black people. So if you're in a position of power, to me, Black excellence is how many people you're mentoring or how many people are you helping to get into a similar position. But if you're not in a position of power, how many people are you rallying or motivating to get to that next level? So even the people on this call right now, like, you know, how many people have you sent this link to kind of share, hey, there's a virtual job fair, there's going to be some really good sessions. Just all of that to me is Black excellence. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, this is a very amazing group. Thank you all for being here. I'm just so elated to get to chat to all of you. So, you know, Ayana, I'll follow up with you because you did mention, you know, there's hardships that you've had to encounter individually, I imagine, as a whole. Can you speak to perhaps some of the career challenges that have come up for you and how you've overcame them or how you are overcoming them if there are still things that are happening?
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, I've been in tech sales for over a decade, and unfortunately, I'm usually the only one at that company or in that department. So specifically, I'll answer your question to a scenario where I was the top performer and I reached out and wanted a promotion. And I was told, you deserve it. It's coming. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I did just that. I kept doing what I was doing, kept performing at a high level. And then my peer got promoted. And I was like, okay, you know, maybe, you know, he had maybe 3 months tenure on me. So maybe it was a tenure thing, you know, so you just make an excuse. And then another peer got promoted. So then I brought it up. And their solution was to provide me an interim promotion. So I had more responsibilities, but the same pay. And I realized that this company or this department didn't really see my value. So I started interviewing, I started applying out, and I was able to accept a position that was basically double what I was asking for. So really, I think just recognizing, you know, the room and, you know, who's respecting your value. And then maybe sometimes you have to chuck the deuces a little bit, but in a respectful way. But that was a challenging moment because I knew in my heart I was deserving. But you know, sometimes you have imposter syndrome or you make excuses. But like once you really have that, you know, that moment, you're just like, okay, I need to look elsewhere. And that's what I did.
Yeah. That's really incredible to the process that you took us there through, because first you're like, okay, maybe this isn't personal or anything like that, and making excuses, as you said, but maybe giving people the benefit of the doubt. And then the evidence kept coming and you're like, oh, okay, time to go, time to
Yeah.
take some action. Yeah. Maja, how about you?
Yeah, I second everything Ayana said. I think being a Black woman, again, I have to reiterate, in a male-dominated and white space, and a lot of throughout my professional career, I've been the only Black girl on my team. And internal comms communications in general is typically a more intimate space, as far as career. And, everyone's pretty close knit. And so, yeah, it's hard, like being, the only Black girl, like that is hard. And I think the first big challenge I would say is that when you find yourself in those experiences, it's hard to cultivate a safe space. For me, it just is. And I love my team. I am fortunate enough to have had great jobs in the past and great teams in the past, and I love my team now. But like, there's only so much you can do to cultivate a safe space for me. And so I think when we talk about, there's just things, like I said, I love my team, but there's just things I don't relate to you on. There's experiences that you'll never relate to me on. Culturally, it's just not possible. And so the challenge there is having this male and white dominated space and being able to cultivate a safe space for Black people. And so when you mention a solution, the solution is I have to be that person, right? So when I think of other Black girls like Ayana or my coworker besties at Zoom who, work on teams where, maybe they're the only Black person or the Black girl, I'm like, hey, look, if you need a safe space, come to me. Let's chat. Let's set up a Zoom call. How are you mentally? How's home? How's work, kind of thing. So I think going back to what Ayana said earlier, is being the embodiment of Black excellence and being for the collective of us is having the responsibility of cultivating those safe spaces for us. And then I think part two of that is not only, on our level, the little people down here, we tend to have, be the only Black person on our teams, but, being honest, in tech companies, you don't see a lot of Black people in leadership, period, especially women. And so not only is there a challenge of cultivating safe spaces for me just on the surface level, but then who's advocating for me at the leadership level? So again, going back to Ayana's point about when it's time for a promotion or it's time for that recognition piece, who's advocating for the little Black girls down here, that are with us? And so, that representation that David talked about earlier, it's hard, looking up at the C-suite and there's no one who looks like me. So how do you cultivate safe spaces? How do you create more opportunities for me? How do you, say, hey, we want to highlight the experiences of you all, and there's nobody on your team who looks like me in leadership. So I think, honestly, right now, that's something we still got to work on, just in the tech landscape in general, is promoting people who deserve it, and who look like me, who deserve it, and bringing more of us into that leadership realm.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your first point, when you were speaking about, because I was thinking about ERGs and groups like that, but if there's, what you were doing is like a micro ERG. You were going in and you were making it personal, and you were talking about being that helping support for other people. And that doesn't need approval from anyone, right? Like, you don't have to like, oh, we need funding for this group and stuff like that. And those are very important, right? Those are very, very important. And there's also that extra step that you're taking too, which I really appreciate hearing about. So thank you for that. Yeah. David, would you like to touch on this? And then we have some amazing questions from the audience too that I want to jump into next.
Sure. Um, So for me, it's interesting, right? I'll tell you a little story, but I do want to say, I wouldn't be here without the grace of God, as well as some of the allies who I want to acknowledge on my journey, who may not look like me, did not look like me. Uh, but going through the journey of life is a lot of similar stories as the other ladies have mentioned, having to go through that day in and day out, and really over committing and over leaning in, just to stand out or get similar acknowledgement. In some cases, not even get the acknowledgement. And, my story, I'll use the term, shut up and dribble. I know many of you have heard that term before, but, this was a phase of life where, that was sort of what I was dealing with. And that was an executive's position in terms of, DEIB. Uh, but not knowing that I had the opportunity to start the ERG at that point, and it was fascinating because I came from Nigeria. My partner, who we started together, he came from one of the French countries. I believe it was Togo back then. We started the ERG. And so, the concept of shut up and dribble was not something we were not aware of. We were very in tune with that. And which such as stands was really managing through a lot of the tumultuous time during that phase to overcome a lot of the headwinds we were facing, whether it was, being left out of meetings or when reviews came up, some of the feedback we got, or just some of the day-to-day challenges or exclusion for some of the events, like, Maja mentioned, being, oh, sorry, we forgot about you kind of concepts. Well, it's a team of, a handful of people. It's fascinating that, you're the one that keeps getting forgotten about in some of these conversations. And so really, leaning into that resilience, some of the professional discipline and trainings, how to be professional, but also have difficult conversations, and understand, what are some of your rights and capabilities within an organization, the society, in a business context, that comes from really learning and understanding, the economy and how we work as a country. Really leaning in and pulling all that together. And as I mentioned, the grace of God, as well as talking to allies who, when someone in the room doesn't look like you, they can speak up for you, and be there and be that voice, a reason to really represent you in the best light, irrespective of what some others may have. So that's why I use that, phrase, shut up and dribble, because for me, going through that journey, really resonated with that and how a lot of the athletes really handle that time. And it comes with a price, and you have to be willing to pay the price. There are decisions you have to make as a person, and you have to do that for yourself. And then there's a decision that you would have to make by the diaspora overall. And you just have to be okay with how some of those play out. But I would say going through that journey really let me see and understand a lot of things about the intricacies of the tech space, and help me be who I am today, and get to the position I'm at.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Amazingly, we only have 5 minutes left. Time flies. We could clearly, yeah, you know what? We do have to push all the other talks because we're in it now, friends. I wish we could. I wish we could, but I know that we can't. So we had a question from the audience here, and I'll let either the ladies, if you'd like to jump in on one of these on this question. It says, how do you balance the need to excel professionally with the responsibility to raise awareness about diversity and representation in the tech industry?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm not going to lie. I'm still struggling with that because you want to excel in your career, but you don't want to kind of distract your leadership with, hey, we need to do this, we need to do this. And it's like, well, what about that project that we're working on that's, more of a focus that's going to bring in revenue? So I'm still trying to figure out the balance. But, attending events like this, and like I said earlier, just sharing information that you have to help people get to where you are, I think is the best way, just day by day.
Yeah.
I would say, although I am extremely mission driven, I am not in any way, shape, or form Superwoman. And so I am only one Black girl on this earth of billions and billions and millions of people. So I think it's very important, you know, to have boundaries and to know what I can and can't do as far as excelling professionally, and then my responsibility to raise awareness for, you know, DEI, right? Like I do what I can within my limits. And again, going back to my definition of Black excellence, what makes me proud in the space. But also on the other side of that, I also understand that my need or me excelling professionally is 100% attached to my commitment to raising awareness for DEI. Me embodying Black excellence, obtaining my degrees, working at Zoom, working in the ERG, doing events like this is absolutely raising awareness for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So again, I do what I can, you know, I have my boundaries, you know, and like I said, I am not Superwoman, but every achievement that I have, every success that I obtain, every piece of success that I obtain, every promotion, every new level, every advancement is my commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, because other Black girls can look at me and look at my success and look at my ability and think, if she can, so can I.
Yeah.
Period.
Mic drop. We're done. Okay. Wow. Well, we only have a minute or two left. Ayana, what would you like to see in DE&I in the next 5 years?
I think what we could really benefit from is some autonomy, because the ERGs that I've been a part of, not Zoom has been amazing. But there's a lot of ideas that we bring to the table, and then it's like, okay, let's get approval from this person, then that person has to get approval, and then we have to figure out budget. Like if they were just like, hey, ERG, here's $10,000 or $25,000, $100,000, use it towards what you think is going to impact your community, since you're a part of those communities, I think that would be powerful, and I would love to see that.
David, what would you like to see?
Accountability at the top, right? You know, I'm always of the perspective of you can improve what you measure and hold people accountable too. If you don't measure, it's hard for you to understand progress. So having a situation where we have responsibilities and work streams, you know, all the way from the top down, and people are measured and kept accountable over time for the deliverables, just like we do for numbers, products, features, or any other projects. To have it be part of that overall strategy. It'd be good to see that happen in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. And on the last minute here, Maja, what would you like to see?
Yeah, really quick. I think folks need to reshift their perspective about what DEI is. To me, DEI is culture. Culture is DEI. You know, I think we get so caught up in the semantics of DEI, the language, what it is, what it isn't. Like DEI is culture. So if we are, you know, extremely, you know, prioritizing culture, then we are extremely prioritizing DEI. Like it is culture. And I think we have to reshift just our mindset and our perspective about what DEI is. It's not a separate entity. Like when you invest in culture, you invest in DEI. And so, yeah, I'd like to see that more in the coming years.
Autonomy, accountability, and a shift in perspective. Let's do it. 3 to 5 years. I would like that too. All right, my Zoomies. This has been so lovely. Thank you so much for sharing openly, honestly, candidly, your insights. You're all an inspiration to me. Thank you, folks, for your questions from the audience. So I hope we get to do this again. And can folks follow y'all on LinkedIn? Is that the best way?
Yes, please
Okay.
do.
Great. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.